I'm Tori, and today I'm going to be discussing Guards Guards by Terry Pratchett. This is a novel set in the Discworld universe. If you're familiar with that universe, you will get lots of interesting little references and stuff, and you'll see some familiar characters again. If you have never read a Discworld novel before, this would be a fine place to start because it will give you all the introduction you need. As always with Terry Pratchett's books, this was a crazy fun fantasy adventure. It was filled with palace guards and dragons and all sorts of wonderful fun things, so I would highly recommend you go read it and then come back to hear my opinions. It's always nice to be back in Ankh-Morpork, and I loved kind of seeing more of how the political system works and just kind of watching the patrician. We haven't really seen him very much, and I thought the men of the City Watch were great. I love the dragon element in this book. We've dealt with dragons in Discworld a little bit before. There have been other books where there are dragons who only exist if you believe in them, and this one was kind of the same and a little bit different. I loved all the adorable little swamp dragons. Errol was so cute. I love the general idea that dragons are kind of impossible, and when everyone saw the big dragon, they said, that shouldn't work. It shouldn't be able to fly. It doesn't seem aerodynamically possible for that to happen. And then the idea that all these little swamp dragons are so hard to keep alive, and it's only because of the intervention of people that they've managed to stay around. I have definitely raised animals where it felt like that. And I can definitely see someone looking at an animal and saying, okay, if it weren't for people, you would have died out years ago because there is no way you could stay alive on your own. And I love the way they describe the whole process of the dragon's stomachs rewiring themselves to make fuel out of whatever food they could find. You know, if there's a mistake, dragons tend to blow up, but I thought that was just so cute and funny. I loved how they kind of deconstructed the hero myth, and how, you know, you expect the hero to ride in and take half the kingdom and marry the king's daughter. That's the standard rate. And all the fun stuff with that, and how the people were all ready to accept the king, who was some random person, and they set it up so you kind of thought that Carrot would end up being the destined person, because he has a magic sword, and he probably could have defeated the dragon. Maybe if a person could do it through brute strength, Carrot would have been the one to do it. But no, it ended up being that those myths don't really matter all that much, and that the people were just as willing to accept a dragon as their king as a human. And I loved the patrician and how crafty he was, and that he had the idea to never construct a jail that you wouldn't want to live in, and he made it perfectly comfy for himself, and he made it so he could keep the guards out if he wanted to. I loved the door that was barricaded from the inside, and then he did have secret passages and he could just wander out, and he seemed like, if not a kind ruler, then a very effective ruler. Following Carrot, especially at the beginning, was so much fun, and he was so surprised that he wasn't a dwarf, even though he was huge, and it was so much fun to watch him. He had this strict adherence to the rules, and he'd follow all these things, and so if people could figure out the right things to say to him, he would just plow into people and do anything the guards wanted, and it was so funny to watch him. I love this scene where Vimes tells him to charge, and he says, okay, and jogs off, and the guards are just laughing, and he comes barreling back with his dwarf war cry. That was just so hilarious. Lady Ramkin was awesome. I love the idea of her out there stomping around in the muck with her dragons, and I love the general sentiment in the book that she must be a very high-born lady, because only a high-born lady could let herself look that disheveled and be that unconcerned with her appearance. You know, peasants have to try, but if you're a high enough born lady, then it really doesn't matter how you dress, and that was hilarious. Her relationship with Vimes was very funny, and he was so kind of terrified, and it was just kind of adorable and cute. Oh, and then we had so much more of the librarian in this book. We've seen him in lots of other books, and I love the librarian. He is one of my favorite Discworld characters. Usually he's this peripheral character who just kind of comments on other people's interactions, but in this one he actually got to participate a lot, and he joined the guard, and he took very good care of his books. I love the whole thing about L-Space and how they say that knowledge is power, and so libraries will let you time travel, and that was just so clever, and I loved his little journey through the stacks of the library into the great unknown. And then, of course, it's always fun to watch what happens when people call him a monkey. The same thing happens every time, and it just never gets old. Oh, and then I love the guards' understanding of probability when they were saying, oh, it's a 1,000,000 to 1 chance, but it just might work. But wait, is it really 1,000,000 to 1 chance? What if it's only 1,000 to 1 chance? That'd never work. And so their whole thing where they're like, okay, so you have to try to shoot the dragon while standing on 1 foot, doing all these weird gymnastic things. And that was so hilarious. I loved, you know, and it was kind of making fun of the laws of probability. Oh yeah, that's ridiculous. But then there were several other instances in the books. That one, you know, was kind of engineered, so that's why it didn't work. But then several other instances in the books, it's 1,000,000 to 1 chance, but it just might work. And sure enough, it did. And that was so funny. The climactic scene at the end of the book was so hilarious, where you think they're gearing up for this big battle and Errol's gonna fight the giant dragon, and it turns out it's just some kind of complicated dragon mating dance. And they're off to start their happy little lives together for as long as the dragon's magic exists. Oh, the secret society bit at the beginning was also hilarious, where you have to recite all these clandestine lines back to each other and you get most of the way through it and it turns out it's, oh, wrong secret society. That was just so hilarious. I had so much fun with this book and so much fun with these characters. I can't wait to meet some of them again. I know just from looking around the internet that some of these like guards and characters do come back. So I can't wait to see that. This was a wonderful book and as always I enjoyed my time in Discworld.